She is nobody, an orphan girl found abandoned in the woods, raised as a borrowed daughter in a family that never quite fit her shape. She has no wolf, no bloodline, no place at any table that matters. The only thing she owns is a secret she doesn't even know she's carrying. He is the Alpha King of Cedar Ridge, ruthless, untouchable, a man who has locked himself behind iron walls for a decade to outrun a curse older than his name. A curse that splits him in two, the man who cannot remember, and the wolf who never forgets. The night Billy wanders into his forest, she believes she is simply lost. She doesn't know his pack has been watching her since she arrived. She doesn't know the dead animals left on her doorstep are offerings, not warnings. She doesn't know the white wolf that guides her home through the dark is the same cold-eyed man who dismisses her from his office the very next morning, as if she is a stranger, as if she means nothing, as if he has never seen her face before in his life. So why does his wolf refuse to let her go? Watch till the end, because the truth behind the curse will change everything you think you know about this story. They say weddings are supposed to be the best day of a girl's life. Billy supposes that's probably true. The flowers, the champagne, the white dress, the particular intoxication of being publicly promised to. Weddings are designed for joy. They aim to please. They are the architecture of hope. Except, of course, when the wedding is your sister's, and she's marrying the love of your life. In that particular case, Billy's case, weddings are a different kind of event entirely. They are exercises in performance. They are the careful curation of a face that doesn't break, a voice that doesn't catch, a body that doesn't betray the 7 years of loving someone who never quite looked back the way you needed. Billy Morgan is 24 years old, maid of honor, author of the speech she'll be expected to deliver with a smile, and she is currently standing in a room full of people, watching Clay Anderson raise a champagne flute and thank the assembled guests for making the journey to Cedar Ridge. He looks perfect. He always did. She had loved him first. She had loved him longer. And he had chosen Olivia, her younger sister, the golden child, the one the world always seemed to arrange itself around. And that, as they say, had been that. At least, that was what Billy had accepted. That unrequited love was the worst thing that could happen to a person. That she would carry this particular weight until the wedding passed, and the years softened it, and eventually, mercifully, it became something she could set down. But fate has a sense of drama, because even now, while Clay raises his glass and Olivia glows beside him, something waits in the dark forest beyond the wedding estate's manicured grounds. Something wild and patient, and utterly without apology. Something whose eyes, cold as glacier ice, are already aimed at her, though she doesn't know it yet. And by the time this week is over, Billy will understand that unrequited love was never the most dangerous thing. The most dangerous thing is being wanted too much. Being chosen by something so primal it doesn't negotiate, doesn't wait, doesn't stop. Being claimed by a love that threatens to swallow her whole. The forest and the white wolf. Clay's speech hits every note she wrote for it. The sweet anecdotes, the promises of devotion, the precisely calibrated humor. All of it lands exactly as Billy had drafted it 3 days ago in the kitchen of the wedding estate, while Clay stood over her shoulder saying, "You always know what to say, Bills. I don't know how you do it." From across the champagne-bright room, his eyes find hers and he winks. The gesture is affectionate and familiar and entirely unconscious. It is the wink of a man who has no idea what it costs her. "I promise you won't see me cry," Billy thinks, and squeezes her fist until her nails press crescents into her palm. The room erupts in applause. Her mother dabs at her eyes. Olivia leans up to kiss Clay on the cheek. They are spectacular together. His chiseled jaw and easy grin, her cascading blonde hair, and the way she's always known precisely how beautiful she is. They look like a lifestyle advertisement for something enviable. Billy sets her empty glass down on the nearest surface and slips out. "Excuse me. I need some air." No one notices. Outside, The evening sky is dissolving in gradients of orange and rose gold over the Pacific. The estate grounds are immaculate. Trimmed lawns, garden paths lit with white fairy lights, the smell of the sea beneath the pine. At the edge of the property, the manicured grass simply stops, giving way to the towering tree line of the forest beyond. Billy walks toward it without planning to. She is pathetic. She knows she is pathetic. She is 24 years old, still obsessing over a man who is marrying her sister in 7 days, a man she has been in love with since she was 12. Anyone else would have moved on by now. Anyone rational. Anyone with sufficient self-preservation instinct. But here she is, slipping into the forest like a wounded animal looking for somewhere dark to be hurt in peace. The trees close over her, and the party noise fades. She walks for 10 minutes thinking in circles. He never saw you. He never would have seen you. You wrote his love letters to another woman and smiled while you did it. And when she finally surfaces from the fog of her own thoughts, the path behind her is gone. The sky above the canopy has gone the color of charcoal. The undergrowth on all sides looks uniform and unkind. She has walked herself properly lost. Fine. Billy picks a direction and walks. The air is cold now, damp against her bare arms. The forest floor soft underfoot and increasingly unfamiliar. After another 10 minutes, her heart begins to lift in a less pleasant way. "Hello?" Her voice comes back to her in pieces. "Anyone there?" Only the echo. "You're fine," she tells herself. "You'll hit the estate eventually. Just keep walking." The forest disagrees. The pines grow closer together, the undergrowth thickens, and the only light is the thin silver of a risen moon slicing between branches. Then, a sound. A twig, snapping. Slow and deliberate. Not the random percussion of settling wood, but something measured, something moving. Billy stops. "Is someone there?" Silence. Then a soft crunch of leaves, closer than before. She whirls around. A shadow shifts between 2 trees, too large for a fox, too large for a deer, moving with the low, intentional economy of something that is in no hurry because it already knows it is faster. Her heart slams against her ribs. She is about to run. Every instinct is saying run, when a rabbit explodes from the underbrush to her right, blinding white in the moonlight, streaking across her path. A choked laugh escapes her. Her hand presses to her chest. She turns back. It is right in front of her, not 3 feet away, silent as smoke. An impossibly large white wolf, standing perfectly still in a beam of moonlight, looking directly at her with eyes the color of glacier ice, pale, luminous, impossibly alert. Billy screams. She curls into herself instinctively, arms up, face covered, making herself small the way every childhood fear has told her to. The scream tears out of her, and then she is frozen, lungs burning, waiting. The jaws don't close. Seconds pass, then a minute. She stays perfectly still, listening to her own heartbeat thunder in her ears, waiting for pain that doesn't come. The forest around her is so quiet she can hear the faint movement of the creature's breath, steady, patient, unhurried. Then, something cold and wet touches the back of her hand. A nose. She lowers her arms by fractions. The wolf is not attacking. It is sniffing her, tasting her scent with that cold, precise instrument of a muzzle. And it is so close she can feel the warmth radiating from its enormous body. It is bigger than she realized, bigger than any wolf she has ever seen in a zoo or a documentary. Its shoulder at the level of her chest, its head when raised reaching higher than that. It is not a natural wolf. Some part of her knows this, with a certainty she can't explain and doesn't bother arguing with. When her eyes finally meet its eyes, really meet them, something shifts inside her chest. The fear doesn't disappear. It changes. It becomes something she doesn't have a word for yet, a kind of recognition, a frequency beneath the terror, like a note being struck that her body has always known how to respond to. The wolf is not white up close. There are threads of silver running through the fur, a sheen like moonlight woven into the coat. It is the most beautiful animal she has ever seen, and its eyes are extraordinary, pale blue, the blue of deep ice, filled with a knowing that has no business being in the face of any creature. Those eyes look at her like they recognize her. Stop, Billy tells herself. It is a wolf. It is a very large, very real wolf, and you are in a forest, alone, at night, and no one knows where you are. And yet her hand is already moving, reaching, drawn by some current she isn't operating consciously, and the wolf extends its great head to meet her fingers. The contact jolts through her. The fur is not coarse as she expected. It is like running her fingers through heavy silk, layered over the solid warmth of muscle beneath. A sound escapes the wolf, deeper than a growl, more resonant, vibrating in her palm and traveling up her arm. Beneath her hand she feels it settle, like a held breath finally released. "I'm Billy," she says. Because apparently, that is what she's going to do. Introduce herself to a wolf in a forest, at night, as though this is a normal social situation, requiring only the usual opening. "Billy Morgan, I'm hopelessly lost." The wolf inclines its great head. The gesture is so precisely human that her breath catches completely. Then, without warning, it turns and takes 3 deliberate steps away from her. Stops, looks back over its shoulder with an expression she has seen on humans, the specific combination of patience and exasperation that means, "Are you coming or not?" Well, Billy thinks, "I've clearly lost my mind." She gets up and follows. The estate lights appear through the pines 20 minutes later. Warm amber glow, the sound of voices drifting through the trees. Normal human sounds. Relief floods her so completely, she nearly stumbles. Then Clay's voice rises above the others. "Billy? Billy, where are you?" "Here," she calls back without thinking. "I'm here." The wolf stops. Billy turns, and the hostility is so immediate and so physical she takes a step backward. The wolf is staring past her toward Clay's voice, with golden fire in its previously ice-blue eyes. Not the cold calculation she'd seen before, but something raw and territorial and entirely frightening. A growl builds from somewhere deep in its chest, not directed at Billy, but reaching her like a wall of heat. Then it's gone. One moment there, the next the darkness between the trees is simply trees. Billy stands at the forest's edge, watching the space where the wolf was, and feels, absurdly, inexplicably, that something precious has just left the room. "Oh my God, Billy, your dress is destroyed." Clay grabs her arms, checking her over. His hands are warm and familiar. They do not make her skin prickle. She files this away without quite looking at it. "I just got lost," she says. On the terrace, Olivia waits with her arms crossed. "She's back," she announces into the house before turning a flat look on Billy. "Can you try not to make everything about yourself? This is my wedding week." Billy doesn't answer. She is looking at the tree line. Later, in her room, she moves to close the curtains and stops. The wolf is standing at the forest's edge, exactly where the manicured lawn begins. Its eyes catch the light from the estate windows like twin stars, pale and steady, and fixed entirely on her face. It holds her gaze for what feels like a very long time. Then it melts into the dark, and she stands at the window in the silence it leaves behind. The wolf. She does not understand. The wolf watches her disappear into the house with the other male, the one whose scent clings to her, wrong and intrusive, threading through what should be his alone. And the need to follow her is a physical weight in his chest, a hook sunk into muscle. She had been afraid of him. He had watched her fear move through her body and felt the surge of it, power and hunger tangled together. And then she had lowered her hands and looked at him, and everything had complicated. Her eyes, the impossible steadiness of them, once the terror cracked. The way she had reached for him as though some part of her already knew. He has been patient. Predators learn patience. The stillness before the strike. The calculation behind the gentleness. The licking, the nuzzling, the careful restraint. All of it is strategy. All of it is the wolf learning the shape of what it wants before it takes it. The male with the wrong scent touches what is not his to touch. His hands on her arms, the familiar way he says her name. The wolf's teeth bare in the dark. She believes she escaped, the wolf thinks, watching the light in her window. She believes she was found. She doesn't understand yet. She was never lost. The forest is his. He allowed her to leave. For now. She does not know, the wolf thinks, watching her window go dark, that she was never in danger from me. The danger is in what I want from her. The danger is in the fact that I want it at all. He turns from the estate and moves into the trees, and behind him the night closes like a curtain. She dreams about him. She knows it's a dream because in it, the wolf is beside her in the dark and she feels no fear at all. Only that charged, particular rightness that she felt when she first touched its fur. They move through moonlit forest together, and then they are in a clearing. And then the wolf is enormous above her, and its muzzle is against her throat, warm and precise, and the sound it makes is something between a growl and a sigh. And then the fur is gone. And the warmth is still there, but it is skin now, warm, smooth skin over hard muscle. And strong arms are drawing her in, and she looks up into Billy. Awake. Sheets tangled, skin burning. She presses shaking fingers to her lips and stares at the ceiling, and is unable to name what she feels. She gives up on sleep around 4 a.m. and pulls on a jacket over her nightgown and goes downstairs for air. The grounds are dark and still, the dew heavy on the grass. At the edge of the property, she finds the stone steps cut into the cliff face that she'd never noticed before, spiraling down to a hidden cove, a private beach, sheltered by rock walls, with sand so pale it seems to generate its own light in the pre-dawn gray. And at the water's edge, standing with waves lapping at its paws, looking out to sea with the stillness of something in deep contemplation, the white wolf. Billy stops on the bottom step. Then, between one heartbeat and the next, the wolf's form blurs. It doesn't hurt to watch. It's almost graceful, almost liquid, the way a reflection in water can shift. Where the animal had been, a man stands in the first pale light of dawn. Tall, powerfully built, his back and shoulders in sharp relief against the lightening sky. Dark hair with premature silver at the temples. He turns, sensing something, and for one breathtaking second, his face is revealed in profile. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, the kind of face that would be cold if it weren't also so precisely, devastatingly beautiful. And then, Billy! Olivia's hand on her shoulder, tugging her back. My God, is that a private beach? We have to go down there. Billy looks back. The cove is empty. The waves roll over undisturbed sand. Whatever footprints might have existed have been swallowed by the tide. Or were never there at all, she thinks, and doesn't believe it. Greystone Estate. By mid-morning, Olivia has decided she must have her cocktail hour on the hidden cove, and Maya Gray, the wedding planner, who has the particular quality of someone managing several disasters at once with perfect grace, is explaining why that's complicated. The cove and the beach are owned by my brother, Maya says, as they pick their way back along the clifftop path. I would need his approval to host an event there. Clay has his arm around Billy's shoulders, the way he has done for 15 years, easy and habitual, and meaning nothing particular. From somewhere in the trees, Billy feels eyes. She scans the tree line without knowing why, and catches nothing. Can we at least ask him? Olivia says. Maya pauses almost imperceptibly. You're welcome to try, she says. He'll be available this afternoon. Actually, she glances at Billy. You couldn't go for us, could you? Since Olivia and Clay have the catering walkthrough. Billy looks at the tree line one more time. Something shifts in the shadows between two pines. There and gone. Sure, she says. I'll go. Greystone Estate sits at the end of a gravel drive, half a mile into the forest. A grand stone house that looks as though it was built to keep secrets. Ivy climbs the walls. The windows reflect the gray sky with a quality of studied opacity. Billy rings the bell and is shown through winding wood-paneled corridors by a butler who doesn't quite look at her, and deposits her in a waiting room with high ceilings and rain beginning to tap against the leaded glass. She waits 30 minutes. When the butler returns for her, he leads her down a long corridor to a white-walled office. A man sits behind an imposing desk, phone pressed to his ear, back half-turned to the door. I don't care what the board thinks, he says. The conservation boundary is non-negotiable. Your rights end at the northern boundary marker. Beyond that, the land is protected. Full stop. If you want to argue about it, call my solicitor. We're done here. He sets the phone down, turns. Billy's lungs stop working. The eyes. The eyes. That particular shade of glacier-blue, pale at the outer rim and darkening inward. The kind of eyes that have no business being so cold and yet contain so much. Those are the eyes from the beach. Those are the eyes from her dream. Those are the eyes that watched her from the forest's edge last night, like twin stars. She stands there, staring at him, and he looks back at her with the patient, faintly irritated expression of a man being made to wait, and there is no flicker of recognition on his face. None. As though she has never existed in his life in any form. Matthew Gray, he says, extending a hand across the desk. And you are? Billy. Her voice comes out steadier than she deserves. Billy Morgan. I'm here about the Cove. He sits back. The answer is no. You don't even know what Your sister wants to use my private beach for a wedding event. My sister would like me to accommodate her. The answer is no. His tone is not unkind. It is simply final, delivered by someone accustomed to finality. If that's all, it's my sister's wedding, Billy says. She can hear how young she sounds and hates it. She saw the Cove at sunrise and fell in love with it. I know it's an unusual request. I also keep it private for a reason. He says it more quietly. Something in his expression shifts. Not softening exactly, but acknowledging. Someone died there. The words fall into the room and stay. What? 10 years ago. He meets her eyes. Someone died on that beach. I'd rather not host celebrations there. He stands, the dismissal absolute in every line of his posture, and holds out a hand for her to shake. When her fingers close around his, something happens that she cannot explain. A charge through her palm and up her arm. A feeling like touching a live wire wrapped in something familiar. Something that her body knows, even when her mind does not. Matthew's hand stills fractionally. Then he withdraws with a slight furrow between his brows, that is there and gone. I'll show you out, he says. What the wolf knows. Her scent is everywhere in this room. The wolf paces the carpet. 4 steps and turn. 4 steps and turn. She had sat in this chair. He presses his muzzle into the upholstery and breathes her in. Honey and something uniquely hers, threaded through with the particular warmth of a body that has been afraid, and then curious, and then, most dangerously, open. The human had done nothing, had sat behind that desk, had looked at her, and felt, what? The wolf cannot access whatever the human feels or doesn't feel. The disconnect is the nature of the curse, the unbridgeable gap that has been tearing the gray males apart for generations. The wolf knows her, craves her with a single-mindedness that strips away everything else. The human looks at her and sees a stranger. The wolf's claws drag through the wooden edge of the desk. She wanted him. The human could not feel it, but the wolf could taste it, in every quickened heartbeat, in the flush of warmth beneath her skin when their hands touched. she wanted, and the human sat there behind his desk in his tailored suit and let her walk away. There is also this, the male whose scent is threaded through hers, his hands on her, his easy familiarity, the proprietary comfort of someone who doesn't know what he has. The wolf notes this. The wolf files it away. A rabbit and a question. 3 days before the wedding, Olivia presses Billy to try again. Clay finds her alone in her room that evening, sits on her bed, runs a hand through his hair, and says, with a slightly devastated look that always means he's about to ask something difficult, "Do you think I'm making a mistake?" Billy looks at him. She used to know every line of this face in a way that felt like ownership. She memorized the exact cast of his eyes when he was troubled, the way his jaw set when he was being stubborn, the particular quality of his uncertainty. She built an entire private encyclopedia of Clay Anderson over 17 years. Now she notices, mainly, that his hand on hers doesn't make her skin prickle, that she is waiting for it to, the way you probe a bruise, and finding only absence. "It's just nerves," she says. "You've been in love with her for years." He nods and brings her hand to his lips in that old familiar way that used to devastate her completely. It feels like a gesture from someone else's past. After he leaves, she is standing at her dresser when she smells it. Wood smoke and wild pine and something underneath. Something primal and green and utterly specific. Matthew's scent. Here, in her room. She grabs her nightgown from the bed and buries her face in it. It clings to the fabric. Undeniable. Then Clay calls from the doorway. "Hey, my lighter fell under your—" A pause. The sound of him kneeling. Then, "What the hell?" He holds it up. A rabbit. Small, limp, its neck broken with one clean snap, tucked neatly under the dust ruffle of her bed. Billy looks at it for a long moment. "I'll call the groundskeeper," she says, and her voice is perfectly steady. Rain and bandaging. She drives to Greystone in the rain 2 days later because Olivia will not let it go, and the roads are slick and gray, and the wolf appears on the tarmac like a white flame. She brakes too hard, the wheel goes wrong, and the front of the car finds a tree with a sound she will be explaining to the rental company for weeks. She walks the rest of the way in heels that are not made for wet gravel, and by the time the estate's stone facade appears through the downpour, she is soaked and entirely past caring what she looks like. Matthew is leaving when she arrives, stepping through the front door into the rain while a staff member holds an umbrella over him, moving with the decisive economy of someone who has somewhere to be. She calls his name. He glances at her, this dripping stranger, and turns away. "Wait!" Ugh! She runs after him, misjudges the gravel, and her ankle turns. He catches her. His arms close around her before she hits the ground, pulling her upright with effortless strength. And for a moment, they are simply standing there, her face against his shoulder, his breath at her temple, and the rain. "Careful," he says. His arms don't immediately release her. He carries her inside. It is nothing. Practical, impersonal, the response of a man who is in charge of everything and competent about all of it. But he sets her on a leather couch and kneels in front of her, and takes her foot in both hands with a gentleness that is at complete odds with the cold efficiency of everything else about him. His fingers probe her ankle with expert precision. Every point of contact sends heat spiraling up her leg that has nothing to do with the injury. "You may have fractured it," he says, not looking up. "My sister will murder me. I'm the maid of honor." Something moves at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. The shadow of one, maybe, on loan and quickly returned. He wraps the ankle in elastic bandage with the same patient efficiency, and when he finally looks up, the eye contact is direct enough that she forgets, briefly, what she was going to say. "You said someone died on that beach," she says instead. He stands. Crosses to his desk. "I did." "Who?" "A woman named Issa Howard, 23 years old." His back is to her. The investigation was closed without resolution. I'd rather leave it that way. How did she? You'll want to call someone about your car. He hands her a telephone, and when she looks at his face, she finds it closed again. That particular blankness, she is beginning to understand, is not coldness, but containment. Deliberately constructed. Costly. What really happened to her? Billy asks. Matthew looks at her for a long moment. Something flickers in the ice of his eyes and is gone. Go home, Billy, he says. Issa Howard. The library in town has a microfilm reader and a librarian who has been here long enough to remember. Woman found dead at Greystone Beach. The headline is small, the photograph blurry. Issa Howard had been beautiful. The article uses clinical language. Deep laceration to the throat, consistent with an animal bite. Remains severely dismembered. Investigation ongoing. But the librarian, leaning over Billy's shoulder with the excitement of the long quiet being invited to speak, drops her voice and says, "They say the bones were broken in directions bones can't naturally go. Like something was playing with her first." Billy drives home in silence. 2 mornings after, a massive dead moose is arranged outside the front door of the wedding estate, and around it, in a precise circle, 12 dead rabbits. The family emerges to find it. Her mother weeps. Clay looks green. Olivia makes a sound that is not quite a word. The groundskeeper is called. The police are called. Everyone has theories. Billy stands on the steps and looks at it and feels something she is not proud of. Something warm and terrible and deeply satisfied. The sheer magnitude of it, the extravagance of it, makes something in her blood sing with recognition. She is being hunted. She is being courted. And whatever part of her should be appalled is instead horribly pleased. She scans the tree line. She finds what she's looking for. 2 points of pale blue light in the shadows between the pines, still as stars. Watching, waiting. The nightmares start 3 nights before the wedding. In them, Matthew is there, his voice and his hands, and the extraordinary sensation of being held by someone who cannot get close enough. And she wants it with her whole body. She says yes to whatever question he is asking, without knowing what the question is. And then the warmth cracks open, and below it there is something else. Golden eyes over a bloodied muzzle, and she is screaming, and her own scream wakes her. She drives to Greystone in a storm. She doesn't plan it. She simply finds herself in her car, with rain hammering the roof and her hands on the wheel, and the need to see him, pulling at something below the level of reason. The gates respond to her name. The house is lit against the dark. Maya meets her at the door with surprise and something else, concern, or its careful twin, and sits her in a warm room with a cup of tea and says, "He's out. I'm glad you came." Billy tells her about the wolf, about the beach, about the feeling of being watched. Maya goes very still. "What did it look like?" she asks, in a voice that has flattened into something careful. "White. Huge. Eyes like ice." Billy watches the woman's face. "You know what I'm describing." "You need to go," Maya says. "Right now, Billy, before the lights go out." "Too late," Maya says under her breath. She grabs Billy's arm and pulls her toward the stairs. "Bedroom at the end of the hall. Lock the door. Whatever you hear, whatever you smell, do not open it." She is gone before Billy can ask. Hours later, Billy is sitting on the edge of the bed in the dark when she hears it. The scratch of nails against wood, low and urgent. Then, softer, a sound that opens something in her chest, not a growl. A whimper, the sound of an animal in pain. She goes to the door. Through the keyhole, barely visible in the thin light from a wall sconce down the hall, the white wolf. But not the wolf she has seen before, that enormous, perfect, terrifying creature. This one is sagging. Its powerful frame is off balance, its breathing labored. one shoulder lower than the other. It paws at her door with the weak persistence of something that is running on nothing but need. Billy puts her hand on the knob. Every reasonable instinct objects. Issa Howard's broken bones. Maya's terror. The dead rabbit under her bed. The moose in the circle of rabbits. All of it lines up and says, "Do not open that door." She opens the door. The wolf nearly falls into her. She catches its weight with both arms, staggering, and it presses against her with the desperation of something that has been holding itself apart for too long. Its nose finds her neck. Its breath is warm and ragged. She can feel the tremble running through the whole massive body. Not aggression, not hunger, just exhaustion and pain. "Hey," she says. "Hey, I've got you." She guides it to the bed. It climbs up and circles once, collapsing with a sigh so complete it seems to deflate the tension from the room. When she doesn't immediately join it, the wolf whines, one small plaintive sound, and she climbs up beside it without another thought. It shifts toward her in sleep. Its great head settles on her stomach. The weight is extraordinary and oddly correct. Billy lies on her back in the dark room of Greystone Estate, one hand resting in silver-threaded fur, and falls into the deepest and most dreamless sleep she has had in years. Matthew Gray, without the curse. She wakes to warmth, strong arms around her from behind, a solid chest rising and falling against her back. The particular piece of a body that has found its exact right place and stopped arguing about it. She doesn't need to look. She knows. She turns slowly, and Matthew Gray is sleeping beside her. Not the wolf, not the cold executive behind the imposing desk, but a man whose face in sleep has released everything it carries when he's awake. The lines between his brows are gone. He looks younger. He looks like someone who might have been happy in a different life. Billy watches him breathe. She does not examine what it means that she is lying here thinking, simply and without the weight of complication. I love him. Not built over years like the feeling she'd had for Clay, carefully maintained like a garden. This is different. This is the feeling of looking at something and knowing, the way you know a key belongs to a specific lock. Then he opens his eyes, and there is nothing there. Not coldness. Worse than coldness. Genuine blankness. The blankness of a man looking at a face he has never seen before. "Who are you?" He sits up, putting distance between them. "Why are you in my house?" "Billy," she hears herself say it very carefully, as though the word might break. "I'm Billy. You came to me last night, in the wolf. You were hurt. You came to my door." The wolf. Something in his face shifts. Not recognition, but the shadow of alarm. "You know about... I've seen you transform. On the beach." "I know what you are." He stares at her. The alarm has deepened into something else. Horror, maybe, or its close relative. The look of a man receiving news he already knew was coming and had hoped somehow to be spared. "I've been following you," she says, hearing how it sounds. Or, "You've been following me. Since I arrived. Don't you remember? Any of it?" He doesn't. She can see it plainly. Not cruelty, not pretense. The honest bewilderment of someone for whom the preceding 24 hours simply do not exist. The door opens. Maya stops in the frame, taking in the scene with an expression that is grief, without the luxury of showing it. "Matthew," she says, "it's all right. I'm going to take Billy home." He nods and closes his eyes, and Billy watches him, this man who does not remember her, whose wolf has been leaving dead animals at her door and sleeping in her bed, whose hands on her ankle had felt like the answer to a question she hadn't known she was asking. And something in her understands, all at once, that this is not a simple story. The Gray Curse. Matthew Gray has known he was cursed since he could talk. His first memory is of his grandfather being dragged from the house, a snarling, barely recognizable thing by then, more animal than man, and the howl that cut through the Cedar Ridge night afterward was not rage or pain, but finality. He was 4, too young to understand, but old enough to store the fear. By 6, his father had explained it. The gray curse, told in the family the way other families tell cautionary tales. But this one is true and inescapable and woven into the bloodline like a fault through stone. Long ago, the first Matthew Gray had a fate-bonded mate, a woman with power who loved him and chose to leave her for a human woman who could not accept what he was. The punishment had been precise and long-lasting. All male heirs would be born with the curse. The wolf would know its mate. The man would not. The wolf would crave, would follow, would claim, and the human half would walk past his destiny over and over again, unseeing. The dichotomy drives a man mad, his father had said, already carrying the shadows of his own fate in his eyes. The wolf grows desperate. The human grows confused. Eventually, the human self slips away entirely. He had killed his father. It had been an act of mercy and also of law. The alpha's most terrible responsibility, the final enforcement of the rule that protected humans from the mad, feral wolves that the unchecked claiming instinct produced. He had been 19. He had never recovered, exactly, though recovery was perhaps the wrong framework. Now Matthew sits in his study with the sedative Maya had prepared dissolving in his bloodstream, making the edges of things soft and the thoughts come slow, and tries to hold on to the shape of a face, dark curls, brown eyes, the warmth of a body that fit against his, with the uncanny rightness of a key. He had woken beside her and not known her. He can feel the memory slipping already, the wolf's knowledge bleeding out of his reach with every hour of human consciousness, fading like a dream you try to catch in your hands and find only water. What was her name? Matthew. Maya in the doorway, her expression the specific combination of grief and practicality she has worn since he was 19. You need to sleep. What's her name? He asks. He is not looking at her. The woman, the wolf, the less you know, the less it hurts when you forget, Maya says. Her voice is very steady. You know how this works. He does. He has watched it work on his father and his grandfather before that. The wolf knows everything. The man is left with fragments, and the fragments hurt worse than the blankness. She was human, he says. She was. A pause. We sent her home. He nods and lets the sedative pull him down, and in the fog before sleep he can almost feel her, the specific temperature of her skin against his, the particular rhythm of her breathing, the rightness of it that his wolf has been carrying since the moment she walked into the forest and changed everything. And then it is gone, and he is only Matthew Gray, alone in his house in Cedar Ridge, carrying the weight of a curse he was born into and cannot put down. Get some sleep, the fog says. You won't remember any of it tomorrow. He doesn't. He never does. What Maya says. In the car, driving fast, Maya's knuckles are white on the steering wheel. My brother can turn into a wolf, Billy says. Flat. Factual. Yes. And you. All of us. We're shifters. The white wolf that's been following me is Matthew, yes. Maya exhales. Billy, you need to listen to me very carefully. My brother's wolf knows you're his mate, his fated mate. But because of the curse, the Gray family curse, his human half can't recognize you. Every time he's in human form, he doesn't remember you. But his wolf does. His wolf craves you. So when he kept acting like he'd never met me, he genuinely hadn't. From his human self's perspective, each time was the first time. Maya shakes her head. The wolf visits you in the night. The man wakes up and finds you in his bed and has no memory of how you got there. It's been destroying him. He takes sedatives to suppress the wolf's drives, has done for weeks. They make him foggy, disconnected. But without them, she stops. He goes feral faster, Billy says. The proximity to you is accelerating everything. The wolf is fighting harder, and the human self is losing ground every day. Maya glances at her. That is not me asking for your sympathy. That is me explaining why you need to leave. Now. Today. What does claiming mean? Billy asks. Specifically. A long pause. A claiming bite. At the throat. The pulse point. For shifters, it settles the bond permanently. It's profound and sacred and irreversible. Two souls bound by blood and intent. Another pause. But Billy, you're human. And? For a human, a claiming bite triggers transformation. The body tries to shift. And a human body cannot survive that process. The bones, the muscles, the internal structure. It tries to remake itself, and it can't. It tears itself apart. Maya's voice is very controlled. Quickly. But not painlessly. The road unspools ahead of them. Like Isa Howard, Billy says. Like Isa Howard. A long exhale. She was his fated mate too. Human. 10 years ago. He goes feral. We lose him. If he claims you, we lose you both. Either way, Billy, I lose my brother. Do you understand what I'm asking you to do? Her voice cracks once, carefully repaired. I'm asking you to save him by walking away. And I know that is not a fair thing to ask. Billy looks at the passing tree line. And if I'm not just human? She says. The car slows perceptibly. What do you mean? I was abandoned as a baby, in the woods near Cedar Ridge. My parents found me on a camping trip. She watches Maya's profile. I've always felt different, in ways I couldn't name. The heat in my blood since I've been here. The way the outdoors calls to me like a command. The way I wasn't afraid of him when I should have been terrified. She pauses. What if the curse suppressed what I am? What if a bite could work? Could actually trigger a real shift instead of killing me? Maya is quiet for a very long time. I don't know, she says finally. Genuinely, I have no way to know. But it's possible. It is possible, Maya admits, and then, quietly, God help us both if you're wrong. Inside, Olivia is mid-tantrum about the caterers, and in the chaos, Billy finds her father sitting alone in his study. Dad. Her voice comes out very small. Am I adopted? He looks at her for a long moment. Then he looks away. Yes. How? We found you. He says it carefully, the way he might approach something that could break. In the woods, near Cedar Ridge actually, 24 years ago. Camping trip. You were maybe 6 months old. Just left there, wrapped in a blanket. We called the police. They searched for weeks. No one ever came forward. Found in the woods. Near Cedar Ridge. And you kept me. We fought for you. He reaches for her hand. There were hearings, home visits, the whole process. And then, 3 months after we brought you home, your mother discovered she was pregnant with Olivia. He pauses. We should have told you. The moment was never right, and then too much time had passed, and your mother worried that I'd feel unwanted, Billy says. Yes. She sits with that for a moment. A wolf-born infant, abandoned in the woods near a shifter's territory, because she showed no signs of the shift in her first months. Parents who didn't understand, maybe, that the curse was suppressing what she was. And now she feels it, the heat in her blood that she has been experiencing since she arrived here, the heightened awareness, the feeling of being most fully herself when she is outside in the cold air of the estate grounds. The strange, certain comfort of the wolf's weight on her. She is not human. She was never just human. What she chooses. She is packing when Clay finds her on the front steps, sitting on her suitcase, whiskey in hand. Going somewhere? He looks at her, then at the suitcase. Something in his face goes uncertain. Bills, hey, talk to me. I need to go, she says. Just for a while. He puts the glass aside and steps closer, and she can smell the whiskey on him and the particular quality of his uncertainty. "I've been thinking," he says, about us. Clay, I know I missed it. He reaches for her arm. "But you love me. You always have, and I think You're marrying my sister tomorrow," Billy says. She says it without heat, without the old wound behind it. Just the fact. "We could fix that." He steps closer again, his mouth angling toward hers. A low sound from the end of the driveway freezes them both. The wolf stands at the property's edge, white in the late afternoon sun, massive, impossibly still. Its eyes are gold, not the pale blue of curiosity or connection, but molten gold, the deep animal color of rage and territory and the absolute decision to act. Every muscle is aimed at Clay. "Oh God," Clay says, very quietly. "There actually is a wolf." "Don't move," Billy says. The wolf takes one step forward, then another, slow and deliberate and terrible. "Matthew," Billy says. Her voice is steady. "Matthew, please. He doesn't matter. You know he doesn't matter." The golden eyes don't move from Clay. "Matthew." She steps between them, her back to the wolf, her face to Clay, her arms out at her sides. "Look at me." The wolf's breath is hot against the back of her neck. The muzzle lowers toward her. Not threat, not attack. Claim. The nose finds the pulse point at her throat, with the unhurried precision of something that has been waiting a very long time. From the front door, her mother's voice, screaming. Clay, running, the family spilling out, hands grabbing for her, voices. "Get away from it! Get in the car! Billy, get away!" The wolf's teeth graze her skin. The pack appears from the tree line. Maya, in wolf form, dark-furred and smaller, colliding with Matthew's side. More wolves. The family bundling Billy into the car, her father behind the wheel, engine running, her mother pulling at her. The car accelerates. Billy watches through the rear window as the white wolf tears free of the pack and runs. Not away, but toward them, eating the distance with supernatural speed. And behind him, the pack follows. "Stop the car," Billy says. "Absolutely not," her mother begins. Billy opens the door. She hits the tarmac hard, rolling, the world spinning in a burst of pain and sky and gravel. She comes to rest on the verge, gasping, and the white wolf is over her in seconds, muzzle at her face, tongue against the blood on her cheek, golden eyes wide with anguish. "It's okay," she whispers. She reaches up and tangles both hands in his fur. "Matthew, it's okay. I know who you are." Behind him, the pack circles. Her family's car has stopped. She can hear her mother screaming, her father's voice, Clay's. The wolf's eyes are so bright. The need in them is like a physical force. "I know what you need," Billy says. She tilts her head. She exposes her throat fully, deliberately, the way every instinct should be screaming against, but none of them are. "And I know what I am. I've always known something was different about me. I think I can survive this. I think maybe I was always meant to." The wolf trembles. "Please," she thinks. And the word isn't a word so much as an intention aimed at whatever connects them. Trust it. Trust what we are. His jaws open. The fangs press against her neck, testing, shaking, pausing at the threshold of everything. "Go on," she says. "I'm not afraid." The bite is bright and total, and the last thing she sees before the dark takes her is his eyes shifting from gold to the most desperate blue she has ever seen. What breaking sounds like blood. The taste of it hits him like a bucket of ice, and the wolf recedes. Not slowly, but all at once. The wolf crashing backward, the man surfacing with a violence that cracks bone and tears muscle, and deposits Matthew Gray naked on a stretch of tarmac in the late afternoon sun. kneeling over a woman who is bleeding from a wound at her throat. He knows her. The curse has shattered. He does not have a better word for it. The internal barrier that his entire life has been lived behind. The wall between his wolf's knowledge and his own has simply broken open. And through the gap pour 12 years of images he has no right to, and yet knows precisely. Her voice in a clearing at night, her hand in silver-white fur, her face in sleep, the warmth of her against his wolf's flank, the impossible courage of a woman stepping between him and Clay Anderson with her arms wide open. Billy, he thinks, and the name is not new information. It is ancient. It is the thing that was always there. She is convulsing, blood at her lips. "I'm sorry," he says, pressing his forehead to hers, and the words come out scraped raw. "I'm so sorry, Billy." "Matthew." Maya's voice behind him. The pack in a loose circle. Her family somewhere further back. Her mother screaming. Her father's face doing something terrible. "Matthew, you need to let her go." "Let the healers know." He lifts her from the road. "She's mine. She's going through this." No human has ever survived the claiming bite. She's not just human. He looks at Maya over Billy's convulsing form. She was found in the woods near Cedar Ridge, abandoned as an infant. She's wolf-born, Maya. Whatever the curse did to suppress what she is, it's going to break now. The bite will break it. Maya's face holds everything she can't say. Her father steps forward, shrugging off his coat. "Here," he says, and his voice is shaking but his eyes are steady. "Take it. Help her if you can." Matthew wraps it around her and runs. He sits with her through all of it. The bedroom in Greystone is dark and quiet, and she seizes in his arms, while he holds her through each wave. Bones shifting that have never shifted, muscles tearing apart and remaking themselves. A body discovering what it has always been, and what it has been prevented from being for 24 years. "Fight through it," he tells her, and he reaches for her through the bond that is forming even as she breaks, the golden thread pulling taut between them, pulsing with his certainty. "Don't fight the change. Fight toward it. Find your wolf." Her eyes open and close, fever bright, unseeing. "I'm here," he says. "Billy, I'm not going anywhere." He feels her pain as his own, the mercy and the horror of a claiming bond, that whatever you do to one, you do to both. He breathes through it with her. He thinks her name, over and over, down the thread between them. Find it. Find what you are. And then, the cracking stops. Where Billy had been, a sleek gray wolf, silver-tipped fur, brown eyes that blink at him with exhausted relief. Small compared to his, but perfectly proportioned, perfectly formed. She lifts her head and presses her muzzle against his neck, and the sound she makes is not a whimper, but something that means, "Here. Finally. Here." He buries his face in the warmth of her neck. His hands, back in human form now without his noticing, grip the fur at her shoulders. He does not speak. He cannot speak. The wolf shifts, and then Billy is there, shaking and human and alive, her eyes finding his with something in them that is made of equal parts "I told you" and what just happened. "I'm Billy," she says, and her voice is wrecked and laughing and fierce. "In case you forgot again." He cups her face in his hands. He presses his mouth to hers, and she tastes of salt and iron and miracle. "I remember everything," he says against her lips. "I remember all of it." 4 years later. Push. Billy bears down through the red haze of pain, and the midwife's voice is steady above her, and Matthew's hand is crushing hers with a strength he will apologize for later, and she will wave away. And the world narrows to this single enormous effort. Then a sound, small, indignant. "Perfect." "A boy," the midwife announces. They lay him on her chest, and he is extraordinary, furious and squinting and already somehow familiar. like something she has been waiting for her whole life and didn't know had a specific face. "Hello," Billy whispers. "You are so wanted. Do you hear me? You are wanted more than I have words for." Matthew makes a sound beside her that she has never heard from him before. She looks at him and finds that the Alpha King of Cedar Ridge, the man who spent a decade managing a curse that leveled his entire family line, is crying without apparent concern for it. She reaches for his hand. "He's free," Matthew says quietly. "First gray male in generations born without the curse." "How can you know?" "I can feel it. The curse died when you completed the bond." He looks at her with an expression that still, after 4 years, rearranges something in her chest. "You broke it, Billy. You ended something that's been eating my family alive for 100 years." That evening, Matthew carries their son out to the assembled pack, Cedar Ridge in full, the wolves of the territory gathered in the evening light of the estate's great lawn. Her parents stand at the front, her father beaming with the uncomplicated joy of a man who has decided to stop being surprised by miracles and simply enjoy them. Her mother dabbing at her eyes with the particular expression of a woman who has spent 4 years slowly revising her understanding of the world and found the revised version more beautiful than the original. And Olivia, who had left Clay 3 months after the wedding, with quiet dignity and a phone call to Billy at midnight in which they had both cried and said things that needed saying, stands to the side taking photographs, looking genuinely, unreservedly happy. She had apologized one rainy afternoon. Billy had said, "I know." They had both meant everything they didn't say, which is often the most efficient way to say it. Matthew raises the child. One by one, every wolf in the territory tilts its head back in submission. They are not bowing to the Alpha. They are bowing to the woman who broke the curse. To their Luna. To the girl who was left in the woods and found her way home anyway, who was wolfless and then was not, who stood between a feral alpha and a man she no longer loved and said, "Go on, I'm not afraid," and meant every word of it. Billy's mother makes a soft, startled sound, finally beginning, after 4 years of slow revision, to understand her daughter's place in this world. "What shall we name him?" Billy asks later, when the pack has gone and they are alone, and the fire has burned down to embers. "Something new," Matthew says. "Something that looks forward, not back." "Ethan," she says. "It means strong and enduring." He looks at their son, this small, perfect person who will never carry what his father carried, who will grow up in a territory where the great wound in the bloodline has finally been sealed. And the expression on his face is one Billy has been watching emerge across 4 years. The gradual arrival of a man who had walled himself in so completely he'd forgotten walls could come down. She had taken them down, brick by brick, which had not always been gentle work and had not always felt like progress. But here is the result. Matthew Gray, holding his son in the evening light of Cedar Ridge, with hope in his face that is clean and unqualified by fear. "Ethan," he says. "Our enduring one." He looks up at her. "You know, for breaking a century-old generational curse, most people at least get a song." "I'll settle for a full night's sleep when he's older," Billy says. Ethan chooses this moment to disagree loudly with the general arrangement of the world. Matthew takes him without being asked, rising from his chair and walking to the window with their son against his shoulder, speaking in that low, unhurried voice she has come to understand is the wolf's truest voice. Not the alpha's authority, not the executive's precision, but something older and simpler, something that knows how to be patient, something that waited half a lifetime in a forest for a woman to walk in and recognize what she heard. Moonlight fills the window. The cedar forest is quiet beyond the glass. Their bond hums between them like a note held too long to fade, warm and permanent, and entirely without apology. Billy thinks of a 12-year-old girl who decided, with the absolute certainty of a child's heart, that she would never love anyone the way she loved Clay Anderson. She thinks of all the years she spent being that girl, carrying that love carefully, tending it, terrified to set it down in case there was nothing underneath it, in case she turned out to be the kind of person who only got the one. She thinks, you had no idea what was coming for you, and it was so much more than you knew how to want. She looks at her husband, her son, the life she never wrote for herself because she didn't know it was possible. The wolf who found her in a forest when she was lost, and then kept finding her, through sedatives and amnesia, and the accumulated wreckage of a curse that had been breaking men for 100 years. Because whatever the curse could do to his human half, it could not touch what the wolf knew. She had always been his. He had simply needed someone to survive enough for them to find out what she was. She had always been his. He had simply needed someone brave enough, or reckless enough, or strange enough, or all three, to survive enough for them both to find out what she was. She is not who she thought she was. She is more, and stranger, and fiercer. And the forest outside her window is not frightening, but simply home. Hers, in every sense, by blood and bond, and the long, unlikely story of finding your way back to what you were always supposed to be. And that, at last, completely and without remainder, is the whole story. For anyone who has ever loved someone who didn't look back. The love that truly sees you, completely, without flinching, is worth waiting for. Even if it arrives wearing fur and a feral grin. Even if it finds you in a forest at night when you were only trying to catch your breath. Especially then. She was the girl nobody counted. No wolf, no bloodline, no name worth remembering in the halls of the powerful. She slept under staircases, washed pots in cold water, and built her entire sense of worth around a man who never truly saw her, because she didn't yet know what she was worth, or what she was. That is the quiet tragedy at the heart of this story. Not the curse, not the danger, not the wolf who couldn't remember her name. It is a girl who had been taught, so early and so thoroughly, that she was less, and who had learned to believe it. But love, real love, is not a reward for being enough. It doesn't come when you've finally proven yourself worthy. It comes like a wolf through a dark forest, uncalculated, unchosen, utterly without apology. It finds you when you are lost. It recognizes you when you can't recognize yourself. Billy didn't break Matthew's curse by being extraordinary. She broke it by being true. To her fear, to her longing, to the part of herself she had buried under years of making herself smaller so that other people could feel larger. The moment she stopped asking permission to matter, the world rearranged itself around her. That is the lesson this story carries, quietly, beneath all the moonlight and magic and teeth. You are not who you were told you were. The version of you that was abandoned, overlooked, written off, that was never the whole story. The whole story is still being written, and sometimes, the most important thing that happens to you is getting lost in the right forest. Hey, if this story landed somewhere in your chest, I really want to know. Drop a comment below. Which moment hit you hardest? Was it the wolf in the dark, the curse finally breaking, or something quieter than that? Your words genuinely keep this channel alive and help me know what stories to bring next. If you're new here, subscribe and stick around. There are more stories coming, and they all start the same way, with someone the world underestimated. Thank you so much for being here. It means more than you know.